Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Crims with the Titan Broadcast, and today I have another special interview. It is Rourke, the coach of Polestar here, who has a huge laundry list of teams that they were a part of, as well as a pretty extensive coaching history. Rourke, welcome. Thank you for the interview.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, just want to touch your history up a little bit here because you've been playing for quite a long time, and then you transitioned to coach a few years ago.
Yep.
So when you made that transition, what was the idea behind it, or what were you feeling or thinking at the time?
Yeah, I guess started out by randomly getting into the Cloud9 training grounds coaching like high school summer camp thing and realized it was a lot of fun. And as I was graduating, starting to work, having less time to grind solo queue all day, it was like I think I could enjoy doing this as something on the side, and it seems people enjoyed having me around. So here we are today.
It's very true. Your players were very adamant that you get an interview this time around, and happy to oblige. Don't get too many coach interviews, so definitely want to be getting your thoughts on your team specifically, as well as the other teams. See how
Oh yeah.
you if our views line up there. Let's go ahead and jump in the history because you eventually become the coach of Team Fish Taco. So, how did that happen, and what was your experience like?
I think I landed that by being friends with and working with the manager who was at Wildcard, as well as one of the coaches they were potentially working with, but got brought in since I might have even played for TFT briefly. So knew a lot of the people around. They were looking for a coach, and it worked out.
Yeah, it says you played for 1 month, so briefly it was.
Yeah, but I think I met the TFT owners at Worlds 2022. I guess that was after working with them, but we had interacted a good amount of times, so there was some mutual respect there, and seems like it worked out.
Yeah, and you did play with some players who still are playing now, and some have retired by then, but now you are still here. So you were on Team Fish Taco, and then, you know, you take on a new role in Mirage Alliance here. A lot of things happened for you during this team. So, what was your experience for that one as well? And obviously, making the qualifiers, how was that?
I enjoyed my time with Mirage a lot. I'm obviously working with Darduck again. Always a good time. A lot of respect for him as a player and someone who thinks about the game a lot. So across those two teams, I feel like I picked up a lot of additional game knowledge and draft philosophy that brings me forward to today. Was glad to actually get the promotion that time. Team Fish Taco ending was pretty tragic, so made it all the more sweet to bring it home with Mirage.
Yeah, great success as you and Azog probably one of the players as well as the coach that have made a qualified run in the OQ. So bringing a lot of that experience with Polestar here would is exactly the kind of thing that they need to go over the line. As now we're talking
Yep.
about your current team here, Polestar. So you joined Polestar. You've had, I mean, look, of all the teams in the OQs, you're kind of picking the right teams here, always ending up in the top, having good runs. And now this is your chance again to prove that like you're just a top tier coach on Polestar.
That's the dream. I mean, I'm very, very busy these days, so it's kind of like if I'm gonna use all my free time coaching, then it needs to be a team that I believe in. And I think this Polestar roster fits the bill perfectly. I mean, pretty much have a lot of respect for all the players. I've known of them before this point, and so when the opportunity came up, I definitely jumped at it.
All right. And it is an opportunity for everyone on board here, of course. So let's talk about your last OQ run before we get into the current run so far and the new team. Last OQ, obviously, for maybe for Polestar, a little bit of a disappointment, but also at the same time, like you can't really complain about the finish too much. You got points, you got a lot of points to qualify. You're still in the running, of course, and not many teams even make it to where you guys ended up. So, were you disappointed? Did you think you should have been further finish in the standings?
We were definitely disappointed. I mean, starting with the 5-0, really strong. We believed we could bring it home. I think Lotus showed up definitely more so than we did on those semifinals. So hats off to them. But I think with a little more practice, slightly better drafts, I think we definitely could have brought it home. And so that's the goal this time. And you know, getting enough points to promote is great and all, but getting some sweet revenge on Lotus and Goons, that would be even nicer.
Revenge on Dardoch, is that something? I mean, obviously friendly, but is that something you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, they had our number a little bit. They definitely came prepped for us specifically, and we had some ideas of what we wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
but couldn't quite bring it together. And so, anytime we're playing versus someone I used to coach or work with, it's always in the back of my mind that it'd be pretty fun to bring him down.
It's always fun, like when it's a jungler as well, because it's like I know how you want to play the map, and I'm gonna counter your
Oh
style.
yeah.
So I don't think the Mundo is necessarily secret from Dardoch, but were you planning for it in that specific way, or in that time? Did you get to pick your counter strategy, or did you get blindsided by the timing of it, or the pick choice order, or anything like that?
It caught us a bit off guard. I mean, it was something like relatively on the radar, but it didn't quite come into clarity until it was a little late.
Mm-hmm.
I think my biggest regret for that first draft, is we were kind of assuming an ASOL ban because
Yeah,
Arundel is
of course.
pretty goaded with the sauce, and so all of a sudden we had Rumble and ASOL, and it was like we hadn't really expected to get both, and then the way it kind of all came together led to Mundo being a bit of a mega pick, and I guess as we saw in the finals, um, with Lotus also winning their game on the Mundo, it was pretty looking a little unstoppable, and so I got to put some respect on that one,
Yeah.
but we'll be ready this time.
Credit to Dardoch for finding that. It's kind of a good counter meta, especially into like the
Mm-hmm.
brand and Zyra. So obviously still a great player showing it there. Many carry performances. So, it's good to have a tough opponent like that. Shows how good you guys are as well if you do beat them. So something I was pinning stylistically between you two, Lotus, as well as Pulses, it was, in my opinion, you could disagree with this, of course, but just based off how all the OQs went so far up to that point, Lotus were absolutely dominating people in the early game, and then Pulse would have a very, very strong and confident mid game and come back into a lot of games, or basically, if they didn't even put you behind, game was over in the mid game. Did you feel like that was the stylistic matchup between you and Lotus?
I can definitely see that. Obviously, no one ever wants to think of themselves as like a weak early game team. Um, we would always frame it as like if we can get to mid late game, like our macro will prevail. Um, but we were definitely aware of, I guess, our early map movements not always being ideal, and so we kind of went into the break of the off season with that in mind of how to fix it. And obviously we had some roster moves. Never fun to have to do that, especially as you've grown to have a bond with all your players. But I think it's made a big positive impact. We didn't get the 5-0 this time,
Mm-hmm.
but I think our ceiling is a lot higher now. Prismal does a lot of the, I guess, early to mid game shot calling as support, and he was kind of doing that already as AD carry, but now he doesn't have to think about clicking his buttons as much and can kind of focus on leading the team, which has made a big difference so far.
Yeah, you're kind of snaking into a point I want to make later. So definitely want to talk about the changes that have come in on the new OQ for sure. So
Mhm.
just a couple more things to wrap up on the previous OQ. Like Lotus kind of pivoted in the playoffs run to like more poke style. Kind of everyone did as well. Is that something that you foresaw coming? Was that in the scrims? Was that written in the books? Or did that come off as a surprise that Lotus was actually doing like these kind of mid game poke style comps?
I wouldn't say it was a surprise. Um, I think the way it kind of came to be is with these AP junglers, a lot of them obviously very powerful in the draft. And you can't really play dive into them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're diving onto a brand and he just dumps all of his abilities, or Zyra, like even if you kill them, your whole team's dead. So that kind of leaves you either matching the AP jungle, like something like Karthus, and then both teams are a little mid-rangey, or you just go full, like hold them at a distance, full range comp. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so we had been enjoying playing some of those drafts as well. Kind of usually what we did with the Maokai, where these long range, non committal engages plus like the Jace Ezreal style of keep you at arm's length while slowly poking you out is very strong in the meta.
Yeah.
So we were aware of it. And I guess, like I said earlier, I think they showed up more so on the day, um,
Okay.
and
So they had
regardless of draft.
a few surprises that maybe caught you off kilter a little bit, but looking to be more prepared next time around. The last thing I
Exactly.
want to talk about is Dragoon's Goons, who I think were kind of being a bit lackadaisical up until playoffs, and then they just kind of turned it on when it mattered the most. Um, First, do you agree with that? And second, what do you think you guys would have done against the online Dragoon's Goons?
Yeah, I think going into playoffs, they were kind of dropping a few random games, if I remember correctly. And obviously, when it counted, they were there. And I think our matchup might have been slightly better versus Goons than Lotus. I thought, kind of going into your point earlier of the how we matched up with Lotus, I thought Lotus was going to be our biggest challenge. And in the end, they were. But I think, given the chance, we could have given Goons a run for their money, and we're planning to this time. I guess
That
we'll
sounds good.
see.
Yeah, I mean, I liked your matchup against. I wish it was a best of five. Unfortunately, wasn't a BO5. Maybe
Yep.
gives you more time to adapt and also takes things out of the meta. And we would have seen some. I mean, definitely would have had more interesting games, no doubt. So, with that, that was the last OQ run. But now you come in and there's been some changes, and you were talking about it earlier. So we have Prismal now as support. We have Azog as ADC, and despite only two players changing, it seems like just complete revamp of the play style, especially with this bot side play they talk about from Prismal here. So do you also agree that you've changed up this early game, and what do you think that has on the effect of the team? What is the new Polestar?
Yeah, I think the new Polestar, we are much better at playing the early game map. Like, I think Azog is just a fucking absolute boulder in the bot lane. Like, he is pretty unmovable,
Mm-hmm.
plays all the meta champs, and we have just like a lot of trust in him to be self-sufficient in bot lane, which opens up Prismal to link up with Will and either affect mid or top or play grubs and do whatever kind of needs to be done. And feels like it's fostered a lot of trust between our players where it was sometimes lacking in the previous Yoku, where we got behind a lot of the times in the early game and it kind of became expected. Now it's like, wait a second, we can actually take it to them, play these strong, engage supports, roam the map, and crack open the game ourselves instead of waiting for late game.
Yeah. So speaking of the Rock, you mentioned Adzok, but I would think the more closely associated player with that is Ariandel in the mid lane. When's the last time you seen this guy lose lane? Like pretty much never. Super solid
Yeah.
Rock. So when you know your mid laner is that solid, what's your strategies coming into these games and drafts?
I think the meta is very revolving around mid jungle right now. So pretty much every draft, we're like, how do we get our boys onto something that can carry the game and be strong within both team compositions? And don't want to spoil too much, but we definitely have some picks prepped. And I think being able to focus draft resources around mid jungle, kind of by freeing up what we used to hold in reserve for bot lane to make sure that stayed stable.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can use to get leads in mid and top. And obviously, I think we have like the best mid jungle in the OQs, and that's quite the advantage to have. And we're looking to use it.
Well, it's also now being supported by Prismal as well. So you got a solid
Exactly.
3v3 in the mid jungle and support role, which is kind of where the meta is, right? I mean, you said mid jungle is
Yeah.
where the meta, but mid jungle support is the defining meta
True.
right now. So let's talk about top side. We got Hoarder, who I think has looked great on the team as well as being great on carries. Obviously, the Jax looks nice.
hmm
Rumble, all these carry champions coming out from Hoarder. Tell me about this top laner.
I love Hoarder. He's pretty versatile. I usually in the past have not coached as much with carry top laners, so I've had to adjust slightly. Like obviously, I think with Mirage, Alorum
Mm-hmm.
was very much the opposite of always put me on a tank and he'll be useful within the game. Hoarder can play the tanks as well when we need him to, but if we see a good Jax angle, he will obviously 1v9 the
Of
game.
course.
And I think he's one of the few top laners in the OQs that are willing to play the range tops as well,
Mm-hmm.
which we've been seeing internationally can be quite powerful.
Yeah.
So finding the balance between when we want to play through top and when we just need uh, some engage or utility has been something I've been working on. Um, but I think Hoarder's been helping me through it, and I think especially as bot lane meta, or at least our personal meta, has been moving towards stability, it's opened up his ability to get more resources and be a threat.
Yeah, I mean, Ezreal, even stuff like Ziggs or something like even a brand in the bot lane does open up a lot of
hmm
top lane play. So we'll be seeing if that will be the future for Pulse here. It's kind of just a burning question for me because I was analyzing your guys' team. Um, and I noticed that you guys, just for the qualification stage, you guys play a lot of Galio Kindred. Is that just for like the qualification stage, or is it like, oh, they're gonna give this to us, we're just gonna go ahead and pick it up, easy win, or is that something you do like casually play, or is that some strategy like if you see that angle, you're just going for it no matter what?
It's not quite no matter what. It's definitely a little more conditional than like the AP junglers, but it's kind of an Omega comfort combo for us. Like Will's Kindred is world renowned, as we saw in the Lotus series. It
Yeah,
strikes fears into our bows, as well as the Arundel Galio pairs quite well and offers a lot of utility. So kind of like if we think the AP jungle AD mid combo is either banned out or doesn't look that good this game, it's nice to have the switch up in our back pocket.
yeah. If I ever meet you guys in the qualification stage, I'm definitely banning Kindred. I don't know why teams just let you guys do that. I don't, just give them their bread and butter comfort pick that they just slam all these qualification teams with.
Well, yeah,
What are they doing?
that's the thing is we have so many threats. It's like if you concentrate on jungle pool, then either top or mid are going to get their Omega meta picks, and then you're going to be dealing with another issue. So
That's true.
it's
It's
tough. I
not easy. All right, so we let's talk about basically the future of Pulse Star here. So obviously we're still in our group stage. I think we're expecting that Pulse are going to go through top seed. And now we have to think about your future opponents. Of course, there's still Lotus, but I believe due to the bracket, you guys are going to be going up against Dragoons Goons first if you are going to be progressing through. We expect everything,
Yep.
these, of course. So, what do you think about New Pulse Star versus Dragoons Goons? And then after that, we'll talk about potentially the BO5 and getting your sweet revenge with Lotus. But let's talk about Dragoons Goons first with this new Pulse Star.
Yeah, I guess we got a bit of a preview in Swiss. Um, I think it wasn't our absolute best draft, but they played it well. I think the brand is a pretty Omega pick right now. I think it's punishable, but you have to be playing at a very high level to make it happen. And so in these kind of tier three OQ tournaments, the lower the execution threshold, kind of the easier it is to bring the win home. Um, so I don't think that final Swiss game is fully indicative of how our semis versus Goons will go.
Mhm.
Definitely in the forefront of our minds to be preparing for that match. I think respect to Lotus, but I think that semis might just be the real finals this time around. Don't want to give away too much, but we're gunning for Goons for
Of
sure.
course. Yeah. Look, because, I mean, obviously they won the last one, and when they turned up, everyone's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, these are the real people to beat." So,
Yep.
of course, you guys running into them, that might, if that is the case, will be the real finals. Um, what are some things? I mean, what obviously we know like Dragoon on the Cassante. Like, is that something that you're afraid of? You guys, I mean, there's a lot of counters to Cassante, but are you going to try to send it down towards shutting down? Right, and Taption, look, there's a lot of great players. What is something that stands out to you that they do, that or their players, that is like, oh, this is someone that has to be stopped?
I think to me, Kisno stands out as a very solid jungler. He plays pretty much all the meta picks. He doesn't quite have the wacky off meta picks like Dardoch does, but he's very solid. I think his like Maokai games in the final or Maokai game in the final was a testament to him being like a cornerstone of what makes that team good. As obviously all their laners are very powerful, but being able to utilize that and make sure that there's no chinks in their armor, is what allowed them to bring it home in the solid fashion. So, kind of bringing back to the mid jungle again, I think it's very important. But I think probably a way that we can get a big advantage is through top. Like Dragoon has a lot of interesting picks, but I think Hoarder is a beast, and if we give him a good matchup, he will run away with the game.
All right, that 3v3 is going to duke it out. Top lane's going to duke it out. You guys are going to come out on top. And now,
It'll be a fist fight for
yeah,
sure.
oh yeah, definitely for sure. Unfortunate BO3, but you got to put your best foot forward in these kind of series, these shorter series. So let's see if you guys get that upper hand, because then you'll be playing against Lotus. And now, look, it may not be the real finals, quote unquote, because it's whoever Dragoon's Goons faces. But in terms of hype, I mean, this one's got to be up there for hype at least.
So yeah, we were we were pretty bitter after the semis last time, and a lot of the off season was thought spent thinking about how shoulda, woulda, coulda brought that series home. Um, Obviously, having worked with Dardoch before, a lot of respect, but also will make it all the sweeter to win finals
Yeah,
over
well,
them.
let's talk about like your new style into Lotus, because now you can fight fire with fire in the early game, right? Dardoch tends to like run over the enemy team with the team play that he brings in the early game, but now you got Prismal in there. So how's this going to match up this time around?
Yeah, it really makes me think back to the first game where we're on the Aesol and Dione. It's something we played a bunch of times. Like where we knew it was a counter.
Yeah,
Arundel
Volleyball
is.
really good at the One.
We thought we weren't scared of it, and I think in the 1v1 it was going fine. And then they had two like lethal back-to-back support moves into mid lane, and now all of a sudden Yone's on his full build Berserker Greaves while we have like a Dark Seal or something on ASOL, and the game feels very, very difficult. So if we're running that back with the new roster, like we're either matching the support or we're going to be more cognizant of their potential map moves with Prismal leading the charge. And I think it'll either be more stable or we will be taking the fight to them.
All right, I like what I'm hearing, Rourke. Sounds like there's going to be a lot of more skirmishing, more brutal gameplay coming from Polestar. I'm
Oh, yeah.
excited to see what you guys are bringing to the Rift now. As we're kind of cresting 25 minutes here, so that's going to be my last question. So for you, you have the closing remarks, and then I'll close it out for us here.
Awesome. I guess shout out to my players. I think it's been an amazing time so far getting to coach everyone. I think everyone's super hardworking, and we were a little salty after the last OQ, so we're here for blood.
All right, using that salt power to get a win here,
Exactly.
as it's a vital nutrient resource. We're going to be using it to get the win here. Thank you to Rourke. Thank you to Polestar for the interview. And obviously, good luck to your run. I'm expecting you guys to have a really good future here in this OQ. And thank you guys for watching.
Thanks for having me.